always had a kind of a love-hate relationship with scary movies. I don't like to be scared, but I'm also fascinated by how some directors and writers try to do their best anyway to depict evil. Some of them are pretty bad, though. However, I think some of the more famous characters can teach us a lot about God. I'm always fascinated with the character of Dracula, a vampire, which is a fictional character, so if there's any kids out there, it is a fictional character. However, Bram Stoker wrote his book and was inspired by a real person, Vlad the Impaler, who wasn't a good guy. But if you look at Dracula, a vampire, in some ways he's kind of the opposite of Jesus. Because a vampire will take from his victims their blood and kill them. It is Christ who dies and gives his blood for life, to give us eternal life. That's just one of the sort of aspects you can look at. But I think this morning I'd like to look at some of the things that vampires don't like. They don't like garlic. I don't know why. I love garlic. But they also don't like crucifixes and holy water. These are weapons even for us today. But one of the distinctive things that vampires don't like, they don't like the light. They don't like any kind of light. And even in Bram Stoker's Dracula, Count Dracula does go out in the day, but he's weakened. He's covered up, sunglasses and a hat, and he is not at full power at all. And this theme of light is all through the scriptures and salvation history. God said in the beginning, he said, let there be light, which is a mystery because that's a few days before he said he created the sun. There was already light. We call Jesus the light of Christ, the light of the world. I have seen the light, live in the light. These terms should be very familiar to us because light means freedom. Because if you've ever been caught in the dark, it's terrifying when it's completely dark and you can't find your way around. When we were young, we had a basement in our house, and when you turned off the light, it was completely dark. And just finding your way around can be disconcerting. But if you turned on a flashlight, all of a sudden there was relief, there was freedom, there was a path. I think about those sailors who would sail their ships up in the North Sea near Massachusetts and Maine. And they don't have beaches per se very much. They do, but they have a lot of rock beaches and cliffs. And what it must have been like for those sailors in the dead of night when all of a sudden they're trying to avoid the cliffs and the rocks when that light tower would shine out light and show the way. What a relief that must have been to think, okay, I know where to go now. Thank you. But also, light means exposure. And that can be scary. Because when the light is shined on us, or our past, or whatever, then people can see where there is sin, where there is mistakes, where there is embarrassment, the rot in our life, the mistakes that we have made. All of a sudden, when they come to light, that can be scary as well. And even this hidden things in our life. I know I use this example a lot, but for me, laying on that chair at the dental office and he pulls down that light, says open wide and digging around in your mouth, even getting mirrors to see behind. There's things back in there that you don't even see, that you didn't even know were there. They're hidden. Little pieces of cavity rotting away at one of your enamel in your teeth. And then you know there's consequences when that dentist pulls out that syringe and says, "Now just relax." And he sticks it in there. Oh my goodness. There's consequences when things are lost in the dark. But we hear today that Christ is our light, and in the Gospels, John says that the verdict is in, that light came into the world. And then he makes a profound statement right there at the end of the Gospel. But people prefer darkness to light. That is a mystery. They prefer darkness to light. But if you are a Bible geek, a Bible nerd, and I encourage you all to be Bible geeks and Bible nerds, to pull out your Greek lexicon. If you don't have one, buy one. And look, what does it really say? What is a direct translation? It doesn't say people prefer darkness to light. It uses the word agape. It says people loved the darkness instead of the light. They loved the darkness. Well, that is a mystery, because what is darkness? It's nothing. It has no substance. You can't measure it. Darkness is an absence of light. You can measure light, but darkness is a nothing. But darkness, when it exists, when there is no light, is a great place for things to hide. And those who have something to hide, their addictions, their vices, their bad habits, they can get used to the darkness, prefer the darkness, become addicted to the darkness, and hang on to it. Because if a light is shown on something in our lives, it can be humiliating, and you might be forced to change. And that is scary. That is scary. Many years ago, I was ministering to a couple, and the husband was what I would call a bottom feeder drunk. He was an alcoholic, but would drink the cheap stuff. And we were ministering with them and talking with them. And one day she says, "Father, my husband quit cold turkey. Just quit cold turkey with no repercussions." I was like, "Really? Nothing? No jonesing?" I've seen, if you ever seen an alcoholic who's trying to quit, they have a physical reaction. They call it jonesing. And goes, "Oh, no, Father doesn't deal with that at all." Now, one of two things is going on here. Either it's a miracle, or he's hiding his bit liquor. So I said, "I'm suspicious. I need you to go around your house. Look around the cabinets, toolbox, his own closet." And sure enough, she gets a flashlight out and finds whiskey bottles in the toolbox, in the cabinets, in his closet, underneath the sink. And he's sneaking the drink, and he needs to keep it hidden, but when it comes out, it comes out. Why? Because she took a light into those spaces. And so in Lent, we're asked to shine a light on our whole house and our whole life. And as we remember that vampires are weakened by the light, that light exposes lies and sin and weakens them too. They don't like being exposed. You know, a priest once told me, "You're as sick as your secrets." You're as sick as your secrets. And whenever you're with a doctor or a confessor, to bring them out. To bring them out. And so that other people can help, heal, become reconciled, and be set free. Oh, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes even a little embarrassing. But sin loves the dark. It loves the secrets. It loves to infest, because that's where the devil does the most work. Where Jesus comes in and shines a light, bringing healing, reconciliation, and freedom. Now, I mentioned Dracula. If you're not familiar with that character, you say, "Father, I don't watch those things. I don't watch those things." Fine. But there's some other stories that I think you really should be familiar with. If you've never read or at least watched the movies of The Lord of the Rings, you really should. It is dripping with theology. J.R.R. Tolkien was Catholic, and he wanted to find a way, with C.S. Lewis, to teach the faith by telling stories. Now, in The Lord of the Rings, there's the first book, The Hobbit, and then the other three. There are many compelling characters, Frodo and Bilbo Baggins, and all kinds of the other characters. But for me, the most compelling, most interesting, challenging character is Gollum. He kind of goes through most of the story. And when we see his life, he was once a regular man, a regular guy, and he discovers that ring of power, and instantly he's addicted, and instantly it starts to consume him, use him. He falls in love with the ring. As we hear later, he both loves and hates the ring as it consumes him. And he makes that awful, ugly, guttural statement, "My precious," as it eats him and consumes him and turns him into a monster. Now, having said that, in one of the books somewhere, Twin Towers, somewhere in there, there is a window of opportunity where Gollum almost is healed. He almost comes out of it. He's moving into the light, away from the darkness. But then he gets sucked back in by temptation, by vengeance, by greed, by addiction. And Tolkien does a great job, and even the movie does a great job, where he finally gets the ring back, and he's falling to his death, going like this. Little does he know that he's falling into hell, that it's killing him. He falls into darkness. He didn't run to the light. We are supposed to run to the light and see what Mother Church, Christ, has made standards for us and come up to them. Because vampires, Gollum, addicts, they have become slaves to sin. They live in the dark. They grow to love the dark because it is scary to approach the Lord. It is scary to approach truth. It is scary sometimes to approach the church, to enter what John of the Cross calls the thicket of ministry. If you've ever been in a thicket, it's sticky and you got to work through it. But that's what the world is, to enter this thicket of suffering, which our Lord did to save us. It's not just a golden road. No, it pushes back. It tempts us to stop. Christ and the church has set high standards. Those standards bring freedom, gratitude, and joy, and truth. But the world is like a vampire. It takes life from you. The world is like the ring of power. It tempts. Hey, this will give you special knowledge, strength, money, power, and that can and will consume us. Like a cavity in the back of your teeth, it can become infected. And it takes some heavy Novocaine and drilling to get in there and to work through that thicket of discomfort to bring freedom. So I would say, don't be afraid to shine a light on all aspects of your life. Because in the end, Christ is our light, and he wants you to be a light. In many ways, the world has fallen into a type of darkness. A few years ago, we were encouraged to be slothful, lazy, stay at home. And we did. There's lots of vampires and golems in the world. So what do we fight it with? How do we run to the light and bring that light out there? We don't use garlic, but you can use crucifixes and holy water, the sacraments and the scriptures, to soak ourselves in it, to let those be lights on us. But if I would also add one more thing, and it's going to sound a little strange, the world needs a heavy dose of what I would call, and the church calls, natural law. Reality. What a family is, what a man is, what a woman is, what marriage is, what unborn children are. That needs to have a light shined on it, and they don't like it. They don't like it. There's some states that had laws before a woman had an abortion, she had to get an ultrasound, and they made that illegal. Why? Because they don't want the woman to see the baby in her womb. They want to keep it hidden in the dark. Because once it comes out, then there's conviction. There might be conversion. but hopefully a change and a sacrifice kicks in. Let our lives be changed by the light. Remember what we are meant to be. We follow the light, we run to it, and then we become lights to the world. That's because that's what we were meant to be.